Hello, I'm Mar DiCarlo. I am the founder of the International Parenting and Health Institute, and today I'm going to share with you the truth about sleep training that no one talks about. I'm very passionate about this topic because I am a truth teller. I like to get to the bottom of things. I don't like to be misled, and I don't like to see when other people are being misled and when they are leaving a lot of vital information out. And one of the areas that is often misleading and where a lot of information is being left out and where you're being sold this grandiose picture about how your child's going to sleep through the night at an early age and you can get all the rest you need is the world of sleep training. First and foremost, let's start out with the myth that is often being told by sleep training consultants and unfortunately sleep doctors and pediatricians that children need to be taught how to sleep. No, they do not. Sleep is a natural process of human function. Just like breathing and eating and eliminating, it just happens. However, we often get in the way. Things get in the way of sleep. And if you imagine just like a child walking, we don't have to teach a child how to walk. However, we are there to support the process. It's the same with sleep. We do not need to teach a child to sleep. We are there to support the process and to learn about the things that can get in the way of a child's sleep. And so therefore, you're being sold a lie when you are being told that your child needs to be taught to sleep. Once again, your child does not need to be taught to sleep. Sleep is a natural process that happens. And what we do is we encourage that process. We support them through that developmental process. So if anyone is telling you, including a doctor, that your child needs to be taught how to sleep, you are being misled. So that's the first thing. Now that we are on the same page about children not needing to be taught to sleep, the next myth that is often being told is that your child needs to have independent sleep. And what is often overlooked is the fact that independence is a progression. And so what does that mean? What that means is that children are progressing through various stages of independence throughout their lifetime, from the time that they're born into adulthood. Independence is not something achieved overnight in any area of their life. It's an interdependence path. And so what does that mean? So for example, when a child begins to walk and we encourage that process, we ensure that they have safe surroundings and so on. They will take some steps, they'll fall again, and they're going to continue to get better until they can fully walk on their own. But even when they start walking on their own at such a young age, we're still there to support them crossing the street. They still will depend on us for a variety of things until they can fully walk on their own independently without the help of anybody else. And so it is the same thing when it comes to sleep. A child will show qualities that they will be able to sleep on their own. However, life happens. They might fall under the weather. They might have a growth spurt. They might have something emotionally going on. And so during those times, they need us. And it is important that we maintain that openness and that they feel secure with us and that our children know that although they can sleep on their own, should and when they need us, we are there to support them. That is part of the entire progression towards sleep independence. It's an interdependent path where they're learning independence, but through dependence, and we are there for our children. The other issue with sleep training that you're being misled about is that there are many different kinds of sleep training. And oftentimes when you hear these professionals speaking out, sleep train your child, they're not being specific. What do they mean by that? Do they mean cry it out? Are they talking about ferberization? Are they talking about extinction? Are they talking about gentle sleep training? Are they talking about crying in arms? What are they talking about specifically when they mean sleep training? They don't tell you. And when they don't tell you, that is also a huge limitation that leaves a lot of potential risk. And so, recognizing that there are many different kinds of sleep training, they're not all alike, they all vary, is vital. It's not a one size fits all. And that, unfortunately, is what you're being sold. Any professional, and I really sincerely mean this, I know you're out there and you probably mean well, but I'm going to call you out. Any professional, whether you're a doctor, and God bless you for going through many years of medical school, you know a lot more in many areas that I don't. So I will share that off the bat. You know a lot more in many things that I have no knowledge about, okay? You know a lot more than I do in many areas. But one thing I'm definitely going to call you out on is if you are just using the general term sleep training and you are putting yourself out there, okay, to your audience with your expertise, and you're saying sleep train your child, and you are not being specific about what sleep training methodology you are referring to. You're not being specific exactly what you mean by sleep training. Is it extinction? Is it verbalization? Is it the sleep lady shuffle? What exactly do you mean by sleep training? If you are not being specific, you're being very irresponsible. Because again, not every sleep training is designed for every family for a very good reason. That's why there's a variety of sleep training methods out there. With that said, sleep training is not even necessary. It's not necessary. And so that is what I teach. That is how I train our professionals at the International Parenting and Health Institute. Okay, so now that we've established, number one, you do not need to teach a child to sleep. Number two, it's a path of interdependence, not independence. Number three, we have to understand that there are a variety of sleep training methods. And if you hear a sleep consultant or a doctor, any professional telling you, sleep train your child, and they're not being specific and they're not providing you details, they're being very irresponsible. Okay. Lastly, I've yet to learn about a sleep training method that focuses on the parents. Because guess what? Most of the families that are successfully sleep training their children have support systems. They have a significant other that's there for them. They have an extended family member. Maybe they have a more relaxed lifestyle. Maybe they themselves are confident and they can regulate themselves and they can show up for their child in a much calmer manner. But if you're talking to a parent that is so high strung, that is at their limit, that is withering thin, that has so much frustration, and you're asking them to show up for their child and commit to sleep training and be very patient, and you're not attending to that parent's physical and emotional well-being, and you're not providing them tools for relief, that is extremely irresponsible. And that is setting up a parent for failure. And then there's a vicious cycle. They think there's something wrong with them, or they think there's something wrong with their child, and then they try again to force their child to sleep, and they keep going on in circles until that child just submits. And guess what? There are so many reasons a child doesn't sleep at night. It could be just developmental, where they're at in their stage, because children are not meant to sleep through the night at 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, even up to a year old. It's normal for a child to wake up 1 to 2 times a night, as long as they're progressing in their development. However, there could be a nutritional deficiency. It could be something in the room environment. It could be a birth trauma. It could be a number of reasons why a child's sleep is not progressing. I had one of our participants who was in our holistic pregnancy and child sleep consultant program, and she thought there was something wrong with her 8-month-old boy because he wasn't sleeping through the night. She said, something's wrong with him. He's not a good sleeper. And so one of the first things that I did is I evaluated his sleep journey and his sleep history. And so I said, okay, well, share with me from the time he was born up until now, his sleep journey. And so she then started sharing with me that he was waking up, maybe 4 to 5 times a night. And then eventually it came down to 3, 4 times a night, and then 2 to 3 times a night by the time he was 6 months old. And now at 8 months old, he was waking up maybe 1 to 2 times a night, but mostly 1 time a night. So I said, wow, so your son has actually been beautifully progressing through his sleep development and actually showing that he is maturing in his sleep stages. And then I said, are you sleep deprived? How are you feeling? She said, no, I'm actually fine. But now that you mention it, you're right. I didn't see it that way. I didn't evaluate my whole son's journey from the time he was born till now and understand that his sleep progression was happening very beautifully, and that every month he was lengthening his sleep window and he was waking up less. I didn't see it that way. I just kept listening to the message of everybody around me saying, oh, your child's not sleeping at night. There must be something wrong with him. You see what I mean? So again, there's so much misleading information. If you want to learn more, I encourage you to get my book, Awakening Through Sleep, a transformational and spiritual guide for adult pregnancy and child sleep. You can get it from my stand store in the bio. You can get it from my website, parentinghealthinstitute.com. For those of you out there that are sleep trainers, I will give you a 50% discount to our program because I want you to learn our holistic approach. Knowing that you're going out there and you're so child-centered, focused on these families, and you're not evaluating things thoroughly and understanding the full process, I feel responsible and I want to do whatever I can to ensure that you have the tools that you need to show up for these families in the best way possible. And also to learn that you don't need sleep training. So if you want to learn more about my holistic approach without needing to use sleep training, you can visit parentinghealthinstitute.com. And for those of you that just want to switch your career, maybe you are currently working in another profession, but you really are in love with this. You had a journey with your own child and you want to transition careers. Then visit us at parentinghealthinstitute.com. We're there for you every step of the way. So when you participate in our programs, you're not just taking a program and taking some quizzes and just learning theory. You're going through a practical process and you're being mentored. I mentor you. I'm there for you. I help support you from the beginning stages of when you start consulting to the very end. We discuss everything from the language you're using to uncovering the root cause, the questions that you're asking, how to deal with difficult clients, how to deal with referring out or sticky situations, and so much more. And on the business side of things, we cover that as well. So if you need business support, how do you start and grow your business? How do you expand your business? How do you select pricing? What's the best marketing and advertising tools? We cover that as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to sharing so much more because, again, being misled is not fun. Spending a lot of time and money, especially as a parent, we know that that's the last thing that we want. The most important thing for us as parents is to be very effective with our time and how we spend our money. And so I'm here to ensure that you're not being misled, that you're being provided the proper information and the tools so that you can support your children in the best way possible. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to joining you again soon.